Hi, everyone.
Hello again. Right.
Yeah.
Thanks to anyone who's watching. It's very useful when people in the next room are actually watching you. Unmuting yourself in Zoom is apparently a skill that's not acquired in 14 years. But yes, it's our birthday today. Hello again.
Hello again.
Right.
So
what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit of our history and make it useful to you. We'll try to kind of explain how we got here and draw some conclusions from that might be relevant to your work and life as a learning and development professional. And we'll also look in the next 14 years of learning and development industry. It's a very bold and ambitious, I think, statement to look like 14 years in the future, but we'll try nonetheless. Right, so unless someone bursts in and says that we don't have sound again, I think we're ready to start. Let me try and share my screen. Okay, I'll just share my whole screen and see what comes of it. All right, so yes, 14th birthday chat. Crazy, right?
Right, yeah,
like,
who would have known?
Who would have known? There are some people who work in INTEA who were like, what, 10?
Yeah.
Like maybe 8?
8, yeah, 8,
yeah,
I think.
I think the youngest person is like 22 or so. So yeah, that's totally crazy, I think. And I was going through some materials yesterday for this presentation, like really lot has happened. As usual, we're broadcasting on YouTube. There is a whole channel of YouTube videos. We call them INTEA Breakfasts, where we talk about all things learning and development, how you market your courses to your employees, how you save time and resources in developing learning, and so on and so on. Please feel free to find more useful stuff there. The 19th of May, it's actually today, right?
Yeah.
So it's a nice coincidence that our Friday chat is on the 19th. I remember that we went to the Uzņēmumu registers, to the company registry. We signed all the papers and we drank a few
beers or
not beers. It was a champagne. I remember it was.
Really?
Yeah, a few glasses of champagne to start. That was a nice birthday, right? But the cool part was that it was just a few of us. But then we became way larger. There's a ton of very cool people, and it's of course your birthday as well, or your company's birthday. I think we have a very nice relationship with everyone, and everyone that works for us or even worked for us, I think, is still our friend, and I think we've been truly blessed with all these people to work
Absolutely.
with. My idea was always to work with people who are smarter than me or better than me. This is how we met. So yeah, I think it's a good strategy. Based on the pictures, you can see that we love to assemble in groups and eat and drink. Right, this is the oldest picture of INTEA that I was able to find in my archive. It actually says "Happy Birthday" in Lithuanian.
Yeah.
It was, I think, 2010, and we were congratulating a colleague of ours from Lithuania, Vytautas, who was remote, and we decided to send him this picture or maybe a video. And yeah, so this is the early band, but we're already rather big in there, right? So we started with just
actually people don't know that we actually were 3 people in the beginning,
right?
And we had a cool colleague, Max, was actually the one closest to the L&D at that point, I think.
Yeah, it's
much closer than both of us.
Yeah, so Max used to work as an L&D specialist in one of the insurance companies. Then we started chatting with him, and we decided that it would be great to provide the same kind of service, not to just one company, but to more companies. And then we headhunted Raivis, who was a headhunter at the time.
Actually, you're right. Yeah.
Yes, and his obvious superpower was that he had contacts to every HR department in 3 Baltic states. So we immediately had a very outgoing and professional colleague who was kind of in this world. So yeah, this is where we started, and then I think it was the same day that Nadia and Dinah joined. Or so.
Yeah, no, that was 1 year later. That was
No, same. I mean, they both of them joined together on the same day.
Yeah.
Yes,
right.
but
right.
For about a year, it was
later.
just the 3 of us. Max was remoting; he lives abroad, So the first 2 employees were Dinah and Nadia. All right, and this is what we look like. This is the oldest picture that I was able to find of us.
This is a couple of years before we started the company.
It's like 2007, maybe 2006,
something like that. Yeah.
You haven't changed a bit, not at all.
I mean, you've got the beard and your hair is longer, but yeah, still recognizable.
I don't know. Okay, so yeah, this is somewhere in the north of Italy, us backpacking through.
Right. That's the backpacking.
Right. So now we'll talk. We call this chat today the Legends of INTEA. I'm not sure if those are really like legends, but a few things that you might not know or might be interested to know. Well, first of all, it's the name INTEA. I like the fact that it's pronounced like IKEA.
Yeah.
So it's not difficult to explain to people. So in English this would be INTEA, in Latvian it's INTEA, but yeah, kind of like IKEA. There's no idea.
And actually, I've only come across one person who asked me, "Why is your company called INTEA?"
INTEA, yes.
Like black tea. Yeah. But usually people get it right. But
what people don't know, don't remember even probably that it's actually an acronym. So it's an abbreviation of these 3 words: Interaktīvās tehnoloģijas apmācībai. So the idea was that.
Do you know why we chose that name in the end?
I think I know I came up with that.
But we had a couple of versions.
Yes, I don't remember the other versions at all.
Neither do I.
I know that I was looking for something that sounds impressive. I was under total impression that we as a super small company, which is totally not known in an industry that is not very well known at all as an industry in 2009, that we need a big name. Something that looks important, so we chose this, but I was also looking for something that abbreviates nicely, so I think INTEA was the abbreviation that we started using from day one as a website and as a logo. But the big, like, we wanted to sound bigger. Sure. We also thought that we will work with government quite a bit, and government kind of likes those kind of complex names. Not super cool startup brand names. We ended up not to work with government
for the next 10 years.
Something like that. We worked with a few really cool governmental organizations, but generally we are strictly corporate. I think it's government who started working with us. Because they had to evolve to a point where they actually have proper e-learning. They require proper content developed. They had to evolve from early 2000s into this state. So yeah, that's the name. I don't know what's the lesson for L&D there.
Complicated names don't work. I guess.
They're super annoying, and if they can get shortened, they will get shortened and forgotten really, really quickly. We are officially renamed the company now into INTEA, so that is an obsolete name. So I don't know, maybe look at your e-learning courses and give them shorter, funnier, catchier names. And if you're struggling, like, I would say the good rule of thumb is that you look at the interface of your LMS, and if the course name ends in hyphen and 3 dots,
that's a bad name.
That's a bad name, right? Yeah. So if it's cut off at some point, it's too long. Just make it shorter. Right. There's the first customer as well. That's another myth, and for that I actually have kind of actual materials that Raivis actually had and sent it to me. So our first customer, the way we found it, okay, it's 2008. It's the bank and general economic crisis. It's post-real estate bubble, which burst, like everything's terrible and no one has budgets. Everything is about cost cutting, and you start calling people saying, hey, we're something to do with learning, and everyone just hangs up on you, like literally, like, sorry, no budgets, no interest, not in our mind today. So we had to improvise, and we had to come up with a research idea. So we would call people and say, look, we're not trying to sell anything to you. We need to do research. And they would be like, yeah, sure, like send your questions. And we'd be like, no, we actually need to come physically to your office, sit down with you and do an interview. And they would be like, yeah, sure, why not? And we decided to focus on companies that we thought at that point had most money. That was banks. Still true.
Still true.
Still totally true. And they also have complex products. They have smart people, lots of people that needs to be trained. So we thought they're a good customer. They are a good customer. Banks are a great customer for e-learning companies. So we went there, and we just had to kind of charm everyone into trusting us, right? So we were asking them smart questions, listening attentively.
So it was not a sneaky move. Just invite us, and we'll start
pitching,
selling ourselves in terms of kind of products and stuff. We didn't do that.
No,
we just did a genuine research, and of course, we wanted to get acquainted. But I think an important thing is that learning budgets were down, so these people were not super busy, to be honest.
No,
because they couldn't do a lot of stuff at that point. And we were genuinely interested in what's going on, because at that point we only knew e-learning in one company where Max came from. So we really needed information. And also I think the response rate was 95%. Really?
Yeah, I think almost everyone talked to us.
Because people really wanted to know what the competitors do, so it was very compelling offer.
Our offer was that, okay, you talk to us, we anonymize the data, and then we share it back with you. We talked to like more than a dozen banks and a few insurance companies, and everyone was interested, like, okay, we have some e-learning systems, or maybe we don't. What others are doing, and at that point the whole market was really, really sparse. And then for the next few years, we were doing those events where company representatives were able to just meet together in like breakfast or lunches that we organized. And they found great value in just being able to speak to one another. Because, if you work in, let's say, SEB, which is one of the largest banks, you cannot just march into Swedbank, which is the largest bank, and say, hey, okay, show me. Here's... I brought cakes, so bring out tea, let's talk, right? So it doesn't work like that. But people really do want to do that, and they don't feel like really that competitive, but they can't do that. So we were organizing that, and that research was the step one into that. And I actually have that research here with me. So that's the research. You can actually see the first INTEA logo and official INTEA colors, which was this dirty shade of orange. It was a nice thing. I think even a few years later,
people were still referring to it. And I remember a funny story. Our first client told us, because just to finish the story about the first client. So we started the research, and I think it was a week or two passed, and one of the kind of people we addressed called us and said, by the way, we have a tender. SUV, remember?
Yes.
By the way, we actually need your services, or could you apply for this tender, which we did?
Yes. So now it's even funnier, because they said in order to get the documents for the procurement procedure, you send us your company name and details, and we're like, we don't have a company, because that was happening like throughout winter of 2008 to 2009. So we actually had to go and register the company in order to apply, and that was our first customer. And so I think lesson one is that even if, let's say, you have an audience that is really hard to get to, or maybe it's the management of your company, maybe it's you're running a franchise network and you're trying to get to franchisees. Maybe it's the branch managers that are never here. They're geographically dispersed and it's hard to get to them, and they don't want to talk to you about like something that you really want to sell to them. Do the research, right? You can always call them and say, hey, you're an expert, I need your help, it's 15 minutes, let's talk. And that opens the line, right? It's the foot in the door. So that's lesson one. Lesson two is, yes, the first customer actually wanted to show that back to our archive. So this is our first portfolio ever. Same logo, you see.
Only
it's cut out here because I'm not very good with Illustrator or what. So yeah, our first customer was SEB, one of the largest banks in the country. And that's not the course that we built for them, because we couldn't include that into a portfolio. That's the demo that we built. And that is actually another story.
Yeah.
So what happened, the bank sends us literally one page from their code of conduct. And that code of conduct page is on dress code. And it explains, like the first couple of paragraphs explain how we have to be like tidy and professional and whatnot. And then there's two columns, and column one is for front desk employees who have to wear like green ties, and they have like sort of a corporate
name
uniform, name tags, stuff like that. And then there's another column for back office employees who have to look professional, but they don't have a uniform. And then it ends with a few like security notices about badges and stuff and so on. So when we build the demo, this is exactly what we did. On page one, it asks you
who you are.
Are you front desk employee or back office employee? And then it just displays only the relevant content. And they liked it. We won the actual thing to build the big course, which was not on code of conduct. And I think later, like a year later, or a couple of years later, we were talking. We already had a great relationship with the L&D managers at the bank, and we asked them.
So why did you choose us, right?
Yes, and they said, well, you're the only ones who came up with this idea of like showing branching like in two different slides, and that's it. And we were like and we weren't even the cheapest ones.
But we were not the most expensive.
And we were somewhere like reasonably priced. And we came up with this idea, which to me is like super obvious, but didn't occur to anyone else, because I think at that moment there were pretty much no e-learning companies anywhere, and this stuff was developed either by web development companies or marketing agencies, stuff like that. So I don't know if there's a lesson there, but that was kind of fun part. I don't know if you're interested in looking at other stuff.
We did many years ago.
Very early stuff, something for Air Baltic. This thing I actually use in my presentation. It's one of my favorite courses. It's what led to branch track creation. It's a dialogue simulation for salespeople,
which we made in PowerPoint, I think.
Yep, stuff like that.
Yeah,
something like comic based. So that's the first customer story, how we got them and what we did for them. Then there were ups and downs. Like it wasn't like, hey, let's double the revenue every year from now on. But there was a point where we got so excited about this first project and the first customer that we got into building this course, and we kind of forgot that we need to sell something. So when the project was over and the money that was paid to us were over as well, there was a point where, look, we don't have any customers and we don't have any money. Like, what do we do? And it was like a dry spell for a bit. And there was like literally a point where we were talking like, hey, if something doesn't change now, we'll have to like dust off our resumes and go back to work, to real work. Right. So that was, I think 2010 or something. And
it was 2010. The next year was terrible because kind of we were very also positive that look how easy it is to get customers. I mean, we can compete.
Yeah, you just call someone and they become customer.
You get contacts and you start working. But then the financial crisis got more severe, I think, and then budgets were being cut as we spoke, and then at some point nobody wanted to do anything about learning.
Yeah.
But perseverance is probably our personal kind of lesson learned, that actually, and I think a couple of years later you told me that there was this research on which entrepreneurs do best, and they try to kind of do different kind of measurements and see, is it the education, is it the background, is it the nationality, is it the gender, whatever. But actually what turned out is that you just have to stay long enough, and those who survive. So this is what happened.
There was a point when we decided that we need to build up a portfolio, and we went to websites like freelance.com, where we would just say that we wouldn't even call ourselves a company. I worked under my own name to get it was less about money, but it was more about building up a portfolio. And I was talking to companies from the United States and Australia and Germany and whatnot. I went to LinkedIn, and in one of the groups I found a post by a German gentleman who said that we're working with an Indian outsourcing company, and we're not very happy with it. It was in German, and by the way, all those years in high school paid off of German as secondary language. So we're tired of working with this Indian company, not happy about the quality and collaboration. Do you have any ideas for company that's maybe Europe-based? And there were a few suggestions, and I also wrote and I said hey, we are a Europe-based e-learning company. We were 5 people at the time. I think Alex already joined at that point. Six. Tony also joined.
We just came to this office at that point.
Our office was this place, but it was essentially just this room and the next room, and that's it. Not half the floor, right? Like it is now. So I spoke to the guy, and he emailed me and said, hey, do you have time to talk? And I said, when do you want to call? And they said, we don't want to call, we'll come to you. And they actually, in 2 days, they flew from Germany to here, to Riga, to look at us, to listen to us. And what we did, we essentially went online and we asked, hey, Google, explain me what's so bad about working with Indian outsourcers. My phone reacted to hey Google.
Don't Google it.
Yes. So then we built our presentation as a complete opposite of that. They're like, hey, there's a lot of layers of hierarchy between people that you work with and people that actually do the job. And we're like, no hierarchy, direct line. There's there's culture gap in terms of visual and language and so on. And we're like, no culture gap.
No culture.
Latvians, half Germans, basically. There is time zones difference. From Germany to India is 5.5 time zones. We're no time zones. 1 hour doesn't count. We'll work any time, and so on and so on. So that was essentially our whole presentation. This is how we got our biggest client. I think total turnover with that German company.
Don't forget the table. We literally had to go and buy a conference table because in our office we only had the computer desks. So
I also had to go and rent a projector. We couldn't afford a projector. It was high tech in 2000.
But we didn't rent people.
No.
Those were real
actors.
We had real INTEA employees in the office.
And we bought a few of those fancy glass mineral waters.
This is how you get. And the truth is, this is still one of our biggest clients. We've worked now for
also one of the favorite clients. This is one of the clients where I would fly to Germany to have beers with them unexpectedly. We would be working with them and then say, okay, let's go to lunch. And we go to lunch and they're like, let's have beers. And I'm like, okay, Germany. No, we love Germany. All right, so that's that. Ups and downs, but then it was mostly up, flat, like that. Hopefully downs are not going to happen. But if they do, like you said, we persevere. Right. Another kind of part of ups, and that's the story where you'll know more the Pied Piper. It's about when we suddenly grew by like 6 people within like half year.
Yeah, even more actually. Yeah, what happened? We started to expand at some point, and we were recruiting, and we recruited the first. It was our first employee who we recruited in the kind of free market. So it was not somebody somebody suggested to us, friend of a friend, former colleagues. So that was the person I think it was our first official advertisement.
Yeah.
So
job ad.
We advertised. We got the person. We did the
interview.
Kind of the interview, the reference check, and what turned out that person came from one big international chemical company called Solvay, and they were closing down. How it's called?
Learning department.
It's not the learning
Business
department.
Process
Yeah, it was. They had their own kind of center here in Riga, working with different markets and restructuring. So they were laying off people. So in the end, that was a gradual process for them, kind of firing people because they were closing down. We were growing. So at some point, kind of almost everybody leaving from that department there or similar departments who was ready to do something else, not on a maternity leave, was joining INTEA. And at some point, I remember one of the colleagues, kind of when that person kind of wrote a resignation at that company, the CEO or somebody from the board says, "So you are going to that INTEA, right?" So at some point we actually, and it's a funny story in the sense that we had 6 to 7 people from the same culture, same company, but a very big company.
Yeah.
I mean, a global one, which for us was, I think, a big step forward because we kind of started to outgrow ourselves. And then we got a lot of people who are used to corporate style of work, to kind of more systems, more accountability, more structure. And I think that was a kind of a very good combination for us. So,
I think we really became an organization. There were like a couple of pushes towards that. One was when my son was born 11 years ago. And that was when I thought that, like living at work is fun.
Yeah.
But like, what if I want to spend less time there? Then like, who's gonna do this and that? And who knows those things? So I had to like start training people up and like moving some knowledge out of my head into documentation and organizing processes that were not like really when everyone is sitting around one big table and you can always ask and so on.
Exactly.
So that was one, and then that was the second part where we were first of all growing, and then some organized people finally joined, and we started really organizing, and we'll show you where that organization took us in the end in a couple of slides. But that was fun. That company is like behind the camera. There's a window. And we can actually see the
that
office.
Building where these people work. That's how big Riga is.
That's true. Right. So that's actually the slide. We got organized to the point that we are now an ISO certified, ISO 9000.
No, it's not ISO 9000.
What are we? I have no idea.
Okay, we are. I think we're 27 or something. We are the data kind of.
The data. Okay.
Yeah. So
27.
Disregard 9000. Yeah.
Okay, let me change that.
I think it's 27.
It's
like
because I know my other project is certified like that. We delete this, and now it's all fine. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So we're that organized. So in terms of like how we store data, how we manage access to data, how data is processed and destroyed when it's not needed, and so on and so on. It's all very well organized. I know very well this because it's how BranchTrack is working. We have all the policies and so on, but for BranchTrack, which is just a very small team of a very, very virtual product, it's way easier than in a company which actually has dozens of people and working with dozens of different projects with a lot of actual data in them. So that's how organized we are.
Yeah, and that's also, yeah, in part thanks to those people who joined us from a more organized world. So thanks to Mother, Eva, and all the rest who helped them organize ourselves better.
Absolutely. Right. So what else? Now I think,
future.
yeah, the future. Before we jump to the future, I wanted to show you a couple more like historic documents. Maybe one. It's our
Second logo.
Second logo, right?
Yeah, the gear.
It's the gear. It's the one that we used after that kind of
the babushka, as we call
Russian,
or matroshka, yeah.
Russian nesting doll. Or maybe if you turn it like it's that Olaf the snowman.
Okay, or Olaf, yeah.
But it was before Frozen, so. Yeah, and this is the second one, the gear and the font and the new like professional color, magenta, and so on and so on. Yeah, and way cooler designs for a lot of things. I think we still showcase a lot of these things to clients.
Yeah, really yeah. So
right, so that's the second logo, right? So let's look at the next 14 years. I think, like, if we talk about INTEA for the next 14 years, I would say that's just growth and expansion. We've already worked globally with companies in Central Africa.
Yeah, Central Eastern Africa. Yeah, I think we've been now on every continent at some point.
Antarctica. Maybe not yet.
Maybe not yet, but with climate change,
yes,
Yeah,
there's so-called P learning. P stands for penguins. Penguins learning, right? So yeah, but pretty much in everything. If we count Branch Track as our sister project, then it's totally global. But INTEA, in terms of delivering courses everywhere, like almost every industry. Our latest are like biotech and vaccinations and stuff, like really serious medical stuff. We're growing a number of employees. We'll grow more. We'll probably grow internationally in terms of employees as well. We've had really good experience with hiring people from abroad.
Yeah, and and our team kind of I mean, the strategy has always been that we are based in Riga in one office, and there is a lot of this creativity going on. The COVID crisis taught us that we can work really well remotely as well. So right now, quite a lot of people do not go to the office every day.
It was actually interesting. We had this like all hands on deck meeting where we discussed whether we want to all come back to the office after COVID and work locally, or we want to maybe become fully remote and maybe just even let go of the office, not have an office at all, or we want to find some hybrid state. And people kind of divided into a couple of groups. Group one said that, hey, we want to work remote for a number of reasons, like there is no commute, it's easier for me, maybe with my family and so on. So I want to work remote. Yeah. Others said, no, I want to work in the office for two reasons. Either people say, hey, I'm like myself, I'm lonely at home, like I feel better around people, so I want to be in the office. Others said, no, I can't stand it at home. I have like 3 dogs, 4 kids, annoying husband. So I want to work like a normal working environment in the office. But then there were people who said, hey, we want to work in the office, and we also want those people who are remoting to also work in the office. Bring them back, because it's easier for us, typically like the management. And in the end, we came up with this hybrid model where we have some mandatory events where everyone has to be here. We have hybrid events where people who can't join, they still participate in office activities remotely. We have certain protocols for how we work remotely so it doesn't impede the work and so on. I think it's working out pretty well, and I think the whole world has learned a lot
Yeah.
in that sense. So going forward, I think we'll be letting go of the idea that everyone has to be like absolutely.
No, I think we've already
vegan.
let it go in a way that everybody has to be one place, one time, apart maybe from very creative, very specific cases where we feel kind of for the group of people working on the projects, on the concept, that it's better to be present, you know. Some things cannot be done remotely, but these are not the kind of the everyday things. In terms of the market and where we're going, what we discussed is that with Sergey preparing for this breakfast is that kind of L&D is expanding in a sense or changing shape. It's not
maybe deepening
or kind of having roots kind of deeper, because you cannot be separated from the business anymore, and the learning now has to happen on demand. It has to happen when it matters the most. So you cannot just produce a course, put it on the shelf, and kind of go home. And this is what we also see with INTEA projects, that we are so close to the business right now that our project plans are very much tied to business. The end product, what we produce, is very often also has to be somehow linked to the actual work.
In general, if you think about what how you can bridge the gap in performance, so you're here in terms of how people work and you want to be there. That gap is bridged by either skills. This is where typically L&D steps in and trains those skills, or resources. Like you can't expect people to work better if they don't have the correct resources, like tools or not enough time or anything. Then again, in many ways, L&D is solving that by introducing new tools into their work, or motivation. And I think motivation is also a huge part of L&D now, not just HR, not just the compensation schemes and so on, but L&D is about this internal communication, is about creating this performance culture and so on. So I think the performance support is a broader topic than just training people on certain skills and giving them certain knowledge and checking that they got this knowledge. L&D is always trying to escape this narrow niche and become larger, and I think you just need to embrace that and do that.
Absolutely. And I mean, just to finish this thought, that of course, HR people, compensation people, they're doing their part in a broad sense. But when the business stalls and there is a bottleneck somewhere, and kind of we want this business result, it doesn't happen, usually it will be the L&D people who will see that closer, talk to the business, who will say we need to train them, and find that actually, we have to, there are certain resources, motivation needed, and cannot be solved, kind of generally. It has to be solved with that process, that customer service, would it be production or compliance or something.
The skills, resources, motivation, that trio, and you as an L&D people are increasingly responsible for the whole triangle of these things, rather than just skills.
I remember we had the breakfast a couple of years ago where we said that these things, they are not kind of, there is not a plus sign in between them, but actually they are multiplied. So even if you have very good kind of training and you're working with skills and you have the resources, there's zero motivation, it kind of multiplies, the result is zero.
Yes.
Or you have great motivation, great resources, but zero skills, again, the equation works. So, and you as an L&D person, if you are an L&D person watching us, you have to bear that in mind, that you will have to tap into those questions as well.
True. We also feel that learning is increasingly moving out of its own learning space, like learning platform. It's not that, today I'm working and tomorrow I'm learning, or I'm working for 6 hours and learning for 2 hours. It becomes really blended. One example is where, let's say, systems training is moved into systems themselves, right? It's not like, here is a screencast of how this IT system works. You watch it, there's a person explaining to you how it works. and what you need to do, and then there might be a simulation of that where you kind of need to click the right button on that screen so that you progress forward and you know how to create an invoice in your SAP or whatever, how to register a new client, and now this training happens in the actual system, right? There is wizards built into that system which will guide you. There's help systems which need to be created and written, and not by the developers of those systems, not by the software guys, but by the people who are in the company, who will talk to the employees, find out what stops them from doing their job in a most excellent way, and then create those help systems and build them right into the interfaces. So it's not like I learn here and then I try to do this here. It happens together. Software is just one thing, but it can happen in many other ways. Even if you are working on a production line, a lot of things that you need to know and remember, you can't ask people to go learn and then go back to the production line and start doing that. You have to bring that to them. You have to put a poster in front of them, create a little cheat sheet for them, create this and that, integrate this into their performance. Even if you work with, bank branch managers, right? So, and you're trying to teach them conversational skills, to sell more, not to just, provide customer service, but actually upsell them to do something. You don't just train them, you actually create those little cues that you put on the system, not in the system, but in the workplace in front of them, that reminds them, that gives them helpful advice. Maybe you need to text message them every Monday and say, okay, tip of the week is this, and so on. You get into their personal space, into their Facebooks and so on. And so it becomes more integrated, and the line between, okay, this is the learning department, this is where we do actual work. So this is where we're learning, this is the actual work. The line is blending. What else? Everything is becoming more data-driven. I think management is learning to ask the correct questions and say that, okay, well, we've spent all this money on this learning initiative. What's the return on investment, right? Rolly, return on learning investment.
And if before that you could comfortably say, you know what, with learning you cannot measure. And that was pretty much true, because that was very, very, very difficult to do that. Right now, it's a bad answer.
Yes.
It's an unacceptable answer, because the data is there. If you have a decent platform, you are collecting data. There is an X API, so we have to get more technical about it.
But even in a classroom and face-to-face training, you can do more. If previously you do this classroom training and in the end you hand out smiley sheets, and you ask was this useful? What was the most useful part on a scale from 1 to 5? How confident you are you will need this in the next month of your work, stuff like that, that. Now you can do this interactively as you go, right? Someone is showing slides and you can say, hey, this is useful. And people sit in their phones anyhow. So you can ask them, hey, since you have your phones in your hands, can you just answer this question right now? Can you mark the best slide? Can you vote for the best slide? And so on. It gives you more information as a trainer. It gives you more information as a learning manager. And of course, this can be happening in e-learning as well. You will go way beyond, hey, here's the final point, or here's the final completion stages. We've had 1,000 people taking this training, 950 have completed it successfully. Doesn't cut it. What was the most useful part, not useful part? Were people skipping parts? Are we even needing this part of content? Were they interacting with things? And how they were going through this training, it's all discoverable, and it's all good questions to ask, because you will be able to prioritize resources. One of my favorite examples is that when we measured how much people use the voiceover in slides, found out that they don't. And it's a great opportunity to not use voiceover in slides at all, unless you are really hard pressed for compliance reasons like accessibility and so on. But generally,
Yeah,
like
it's
if people are not clicking that
ask.
button, why do we even have that button? Stuff
exactly.
like that. Super simple. Yeah, one of the big battlefronts for L&D is now battle for attention. I think everyone is realizing that it's not everyone's kind of nobody owes you. Like learners, they don't have to learn. Yeah, like on paper they have to learn, but if you keep maintaining this attitude that you have to learn, here's the course, you must complete it, and so on. This is like theory X and Y in HR, where before we thought that, okay, I'm paying you money, you come to work, you do your job. If you don't do your job, I pay you less money, or I punish you. Yeah. I punish you, and then you go home and we forget about each other. Now we understand that in modern world, most work is not done like kind of at the table, right? You think about your work all the time, everywhere. The best ideas come to you on weekends. You cannot measure productivity of anyone in hours spent at the computer. And the relationship has to be like, hey, you are offering me your skills, energy, time, and money, and I'm offering you money and opportunities and investment in you, and the whole atmosphere, and it's way more interjoined, interconnected. So same thing is happening in learning. If we just keep thinking that, hey, they need to learn, I gave them the course, they must complete it, you will have, like, you will achieve the completion, but you will not achieve the actual learning results. The learning outcome will not be there. So you have to actually sell it to the learners. You have to explain why they want this, why it's useful for them. You have to make sure it's useful for them, not for the company, but for them. And you need to realize that you're not just battling for their work time. Okay, there's learning, there's work. I need to do my work and I don't have time for learning. But it's also like, hey, do I really want to pay this attention? Because I can be like watching YouTube while clicking this course more or less. Yeah. And stuff like that. And there's a ton of things that we want them to learn, but we cannot really push it onto them. We hope that if we give them this opportunity, they will learn and grow and be motivated enough. But it's an uphill struggle, especially in L&D, where it's not customary, right? If you speak to marketing department, they will never say that, hey, our buyers are not motivated enough. Yeah. And we need to punish them for not buying products, or like you can't be the bad guy, right? So
you can be, yeah. And even if you want in marketing, if you want to remind people, like you haven't kind of completed your purchase, when you go onto an online store, you put stuff, but then you decide, okay, I do that later, you'll get an email. Marketing people will always try to do it in a way that it's uninvasive, it's about you, we care about you, and I think this is this marketing attitude is what is needed in this battle.
Because in L&D it will often be like, hey, you haven't completed this course, you have like 4 days left.
Yeah. So it's not selling. This message is not selling itself.
I think it's changing in that way. Another big thing that we see is the kind of the creator economy. It's a big term for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, like Facebook, anything where people create content and not just to monetize it and become famous or rich, but also there seems to be some sort of craving, like people have fun creating and sharing and interacting with others. Of course, it helps if you're popular, but many people will invest actually more time and money into this than they get back in purely monetary terms for the fun of it. And I think this translates into workplace and into learning and development as well, where people will be happy to teach others, or to write a manual, or to write tips and tricks, or to share their experiences if we let them, if we ask them, if we create a nurturing environment when they are recognized for it, and not necessarily like just paid for it, right? A lot of people will do this for free. A lot of people are doing this for free already in your organization. So I think embracing this part, like the bottom up learning, is also a big thing. And it just needs to, kind of like the previous point, it has to change in terms of attitude and culture, from this very strict top down into, hey, let's do that. There will be a lot of stuff that's not great, maybe wrong, maybe like anything, but we need to build systems that will help us prioritize the good stuff and the useful stuff, reward it, but make it bubble up, and filter out the less.
And I mean the
stuff.
community. I mean, same as Instagram or Facebook or any other social network or YouTube. I mean, the community, the receivers of the information, are your kind of. These are the ones who are monitoring, anyways. So you don't have to have a vetting system and be very rigid. If somebody posts something about work, which is really kind of not okay, I mean, others will tell, come on, this is not okay. This is not how we do stuff.
Others will tell, others will react.
Others will correct if you're honestly doing a mistake.
Or not use it.
It will just slide down in ratings. So, and I mean, a lot of stuff is already there to do that from the technical point of view, but as Sergey said, I think it's much more important to embrace as a mindset.
And I think it's very much dependent on the company. There are companies who are kind of set to benefit from this approach more than others, right? So if you look at a company like maybe a bank, when everything is like very regulated,
I mean, it's
processes are written and there is very little room for that. It's maybe harder than in a company which is less hierarchical, maybe like a franchise network. Like if you have if you have franchise of gas stations around Europe, and every gas station is owned by a different person, and they figured out something that helps them, they might be able to share. Or a retail network which is franchised, or maybe it's a creative company where people invent something all the time. Maybe it's a software company where people are eager to learn and teach and share, but we always keep this kind of top-down approach instead of like letting them do it, but in an organized and rewarding manner.
Yeah, but still, I mean, in every company, we are all humans. In every company, is it a bank or pharmaceutical company, which are of course very regulated, there's a lot of topics like people management, negotiations, customer service, which are not regulated, and where people still love to share best practices. I mean, you don't we're not suggesting you have to share practices, how to identify a fraud, that would be probably a bit too complicated or a bit too regulated, but when it comes to soft skills, everybody needs it.
Or you could tell a story how you caught that guy who tried to take out a loan and you didn't give it to him, and
and formally that was all kind of ticked all the boxes.
One of the big aspects to that is to actually teach people to do that, because a lot of people who want to share, who want to create this content, who want to teach others, they need to be trained on how to do that and enabled. So that will be your job as L&D. Instead of creating the content, you train the creator to create the content. Might be really, really useful in some of those cases. And then of course AI, I think that's exploding. AI, that's our previous breakfast was about and the one before, like we talk about it a lot. So
definitely
once you're done with our video now, you can go and at least select for watching later one of the videos on the AI from our channel. It's a big thing. We will not go in depth right now. We're at the top of the hour anyhow. It's one of our longest breakfasts.
Right.
So yes, definitely this will be one of the biggest things in L&D in the coming years. So that's it for our birthday breakfast.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Let us know if you learned something new about us. What was the most surprising thing? If you want to chat to us, you know where to find us.
Absolutely.
And follow us on social networks. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, and see you, I don't know, in a couple of weeks.
Probably, something scheduled. Don't remember the dates, but just subscribe to YouTube and you will know when we are going to have the next breakfast. Thank you for watching. Thanks to all of our brilliant colleagues for being with us, and happy birthday. Bye. Take care.